All right, we're going to call the meeting to order. Welcome to the October 16th. Thank you very much. October 16th meeting of the Wareham Finance Committee. Please turn all cellular devices to the off or mute position as to not to disrupt the conduct of the meeting. Roll call, if you please, Madam Clerk.
I'm sorry, I'm trying to do two things at once here, but sorry. Present are David Hurd, Joan Fonts, Marilyn Jordan, Marilyn Donahue, Larry McDonald, Bonnie Catulli, Tom Worthen. Absent is Dominic Camerano with one empty seat.
Thank you. Anybody here for citizens participation? Listening? No one here for citizens participation. I will entertain a motion to open a public hearing on the 2013 Fall Town Meeting warrant.
So moved.
I need a second.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, the public hearing is open. Anyone here to speak? Nobody here to speak. So I will now entertain a motion. Well, now wait, I got to wait about 5 more seconds and then I'll get my 37 in. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing on the 2013 Fall Town Meeting warrant.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, well, you got the vote. That's 7-0-0. All right, let's move on. Derek, you want to bring yourself up to the mic? We're gonna try to get through this quickly, and I guess the reason I wanted to do this is because we do have 3 new members. It's going to be a little different this time. What we have this time is the clerk, Mrs. Catulli, is going to read the motions, and then the moderator will allow the proponent to talk about the article, I guess, and then she'll ask for the vote of the Finance Committee and the advice. It's really confusing when you have a bingo system, which is what we have. They pull a number, we're shuffling papers. So this year, at least for this one, we're going to try to limit it to Mrs. Donahue and myself reading the advice, unless anybody is totally against that. Nobody's totally against that. All right, and that's what we're going to do tonight. Is we're going to run through the articles, make sure we got our ducks in a row. You have your blue booklet, which is the warrant.
This is what's actually
Report.
going to hit the floor. Yes.
This is what's going to hit the floor at town meeting. You have advanced copies.
Nice color.
Do you want anybody to sign it afterwards? We get all the.
Kelly should autograph it.
So what'll happen is, we'll just go down. Do you want to go down the articles, or do you want to play bingo? Because I have bingo in my pocket. Let's just go down the articles. We're trying to get through this. Also, there's food over there if anybody wants that, and all the people at home watching, you're missing out on some really good food. Just so you know, these meetings are great, and we have good food. So let's start with, I am not going to read this letter at town meeting that's in the front. I'll have a very abbreviated version of it. It's just mostly for people to read, which I hope they will. All right, so we'll start with Mrs. Clerk. If you'll read Article 1, and I will take 1 through 13. If we have any issues with the article, we can talk about it at the time. I'll take Article 1 through 13, and Mrs. Donahue is going to take 14 through 26. And there are some things. First off, before we get started, I'm sorry. Several of these articles, or not several, but I think 5 or 6 will be moved to pass over. And if it comes to pass that they're lumped together in a consent agenda, then we won't have to worry about those. We can mark those off the ones that we have to do. And also the last 2, the reason they're not in motion is because those 2 motions belong to the proponent. Those are citizens petition articles, and they will have their own motion. We don't actually have to read the motion on 25 and 26, I believe. That'll be provided by them.
Okay.
All right? All right, so let's get going. Article 1, may I have a motion, please? I'm playing moderator tonight. Not very well, I just want to add, but.
Now,
So,
can I just make a note here?
sure, you can make a note.
Okay. because I won't know, I might get them out of order, so I'm right on there that I. Okay. I move that the town vote to transfer $54,740.55 from the receipts reserved for appropriations insurance recovery over 20,000 account to the school budget.
Any issues with that, Mr. Town Administrator?
No.
All right, no issues. Then, Madam Moderator, will say, can I have the vote of the Finance Committee and their advice? And that will be me, I guess. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 7-0-0. The Finance Committee recommendation. The Finance Committee voted favorable action on this article. This article will not increase nor decrease the tax rate. This is a bookkeeping article. And then I could go into the other detail when we get there on that one. That was easy. Article 2, please. These are really good cookies.
I move that the town vote to accept Mass General Law, Chapter 32B, Section 20, authorizing the treasurer to establish a separate fund to be known as the Other Post-Employment Benefits Liability Trust Fund.
And the vote of the Finance Committee was favorable action 7-0-0. And the Finance Committee voted in favor of this article because it is the responsible course of action. I know who wrote this right away. Creating a fund for other post-employment benefits shows that the town recognizes the liability for retiree health care costs. Although the town currently pays on this on an pay-as-you-go basis and are not contributing any money toward the long-term liability at this point, the town will at least have a fund in place if and when the town has money available. Any issues with that, Mr. Town Administrator?
No.
I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds the sum of $104,413 for the purpose of funding the 2015 triennial certification revaluation as shown in the chart below. Do you want me to go into the 80,000, or you just expect?
I would recommend that
Okay.
gets read out as well.
$80,000 from debt principal to the reevaluation, $24,413 from assessing salary to the revaluation.
Before we go any further, Article 3 is going to require that Article 14, I believe, goes before it. Is that correct?
13.
Yes, because if Article 14, the monies are not transferred from the receipts reserved for appropriation, sale of real estate account, and that one doesn't pass, we will effectively have put the debt principal into a negative.
Okay.
So we need number 14 to be voted on. And if that doesn't pass, we would have to remove Part A from this because, again, it would just create a deficit situation.
All right. We will probably have to beg the moderator, not beg, but ask the moderator to consider Article 14 before Article 3. Or, well, she'll know.
I'll beg. You can-
Okay, I'm sorry. The town administrator will beg for that one.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Okay. Derek, can I ask you why in Article 14, we're taking it from the appropriation sale of real estate and putting it in debt principal, and then we're taking it out of debt principal to reval?
The sale of real estate account only allows you to transfer out of that for like purposes, which is real estate. We have debt in real estate. So in other words, we couldn't transfer out of sale of real estate to the assessing line. You could only do it towards whether you were purchasing property or you had borrowed for something to do with real estate.
Okay.
So we have to essentially transfer it to the debt principal account to pay that down, which will give us a surplus into the debt principal, and then we can move those funds out.
Thank
It's
you.
an extra step, but it's what's needed to comply.
I assumed it was something like that. Thank you for your explanation.
Do we really, anybody here really need to hear the advice on this? I mean,
No, you
The
can read it.
audience ought to.
there's, okay,
They can
well,
come to town
you're right.
meeting
You know,
and listen.
that is an excellent we'll read it now for the audience. Good point. Thank you, Mr. Worthy. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 7-0-0. Finance Committee voted, what, am I on the wrong one? Nope, I'm on the right one. The Finance Committee voted favorable action on this article. In accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 40, subsection 56, the triennial certification review is conducted to ensure the proposed values were derived utilizing a methodology based on general accepted mass appraisal practices, are supported with current market evidence, and are uniformly and equitably applied to all property. Due to staffing reductions, the town of Wareham must use an outside source. The total cost is estimated at $120,000 and will go out for RFP. At this time, the town has $104,413 in available funds. Any additional cost associated with the triennial certification review will be requested in fiscal year 2015. Any issues with that one? Anyone? All right. Article 4.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $38,000 from the Waterways account to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvements account.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 6-1-0. The balance in the waterway account before the request is approximately $51,000, and the balance in the Harbor Services, well, I'm reading both of them. Harbor Services Permit Receipt account is $182,000. The listed requests above are appropriate and within the guidelines of Mass General Law, Section 91, Chapter 91, Section 10A. You know, I'm not sure if because I put them together, 4 and 5 are basically the same thing, so that's why it looks like it looks. All right, any questions, articles? 5.
Yeah, actually, Derek, are you gonna have like under this, in the PowerPoint, what it is that they're purchasing right up on the screen? Or is it just a fund transfer? Do they get the detail? They're just gonna be reading the details in here?
They would have the details available in there, and I
Okay.
know that Gary will be available to speak to as well if it gets beyond the depth of that.
Okay.
I find, and it's something we can discuss, I find it's good to have a lot of information up there, but we start throwing so much up there, we start getting confused what we're voting on and referencing on the screen,
Okay.
so.
And to that point, when things are up there, and this is very detailed and very well laid out, and I would recommend that, and I assume that Gary will speak to it and go over all of this, and it's printed here. When it's up on the screen, it seems to me it's easier for people to pick and choose and try to reword it and move it here and there. And if he's speaking to it and they have it here, I think we're covered.
So you're saying don't put it up?
Don't put it up on the screen. In this particular case, I think Gary speaking to it is probably,
We're printing 250, is that correct? 250.
Yes.
There's 250 books printed. Unless something changes, and we'd like to see 250 people there. The books will be available to everybody in there. They'll be able to read through this. And, you know, again, I kind of agree. The more you put up on the screen, the more you run into issues. I don't know. Anybody else?
It'd be nice if you could squash 4 and 5 together and just.
It's a little late for squashing
issue.
4 and
No,
5.
but I mean, in the,
Well, they're actually coming from 2 different accounts. That's the thing.
so
you
when
can't
you,
put an and in there?
when you read the
I
explanation.
mean, I'm not saying, not this time, but in the
Okay.
future.
In the future, and I'm sorry if it's not a bad idea. We're trying to, that's why when you see we have multiple transfers, it used to be we did every article as a transfer, and we are trying to squash them down. So in the future, it might be a good idea because they are from the same place, and although it's a different accounts, they are of the same flavor, let's say.
And I would make the recommendation, Larry, when you read this, if you would read it, and whichever one comes up first, make mention that they are related. because they're coming from two different places going into the same account? Is that how that works?
Yeah, it would actually go when he would be able to expend it from his
Yeah, they are.
budget.
Right, so they're
on
coming
there,
from
so.
two different accounts, but they're both going to the same account, so it's all part of the same expenditure.
And they're both governed by the same Mass General law, so I think what I'll do is I'll make a mention.
Just make that mention that whichever one comes up first, so that we don't have to go through it all over again.
Can they be brought up consecutively, or do we have to pull them
Nope.
out of the hat here?
No, they have to come up separately. This is not one that depends on another one, so. All right,
All
Moderator.
the more reason to put it together.
then Article 5, then, we'll move on to the next one, who just happened miraculously in our meeting. They're coming up one right after the other.
Yeah. I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $103,000 from the Harbor Services Permit Receipts Reserved for Appropriations account to the Harbor Master's Maintenance and Improvements account. I'm definitely gonna need a bigger size print than this one.
Okay, I can make it bigger. Is that easier than having the big giant printout?
Oh, no, it is. It's
Laser.
definitely easier, yeah.
I'll make it at a 12 font, or a 12 point instead of a 10 point.
Thank you.
Make it an 18 point, come on, we're over 30 here.
Come on, we can use an extra page.
Boy, some people complain about anything. Okay, well, since Article 5 is the same as Article 4 is the recommendation, but the Finance Committee voted favorable action 6-1-0. So, now, line 6 is going to be, if we can get all those lumped together into a consent agenda, we won't have to read it, but right now, go ahead and make that big, long motion for Article 6.
And just making notes as I go in here.
5 or 6?
6, we already did 5.
I move to pass over Article 6.
Oh, you did that so well.
That was excellent. Perfect enunciation. Here's the thing. If they do it as a consent agenda, we will not have to speak about it because they'll be gone. I don't want to speak about articles we're passing over because what you end up doing is you end up having a discussion on town meeting floor about an article that's not even on the floor. So let's just go on to Article 7's the same thing, so.
Yeah, let's give it. I understand
And
what you're
if
talking about.
Mrs. Donahue will notice, I took a lot of the, 1 through 13, I have a lot of the passovers, just wanted to point that out. Article 8, let's go to Article 8.
I move that the town vote to appropriate from community preservation funds the sum of $7,500 to create a concept plan for a Nature Explore outdoor classroom/play area at the Wareham Free Library, 59 Marion Road, Wareham, Mass.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action 6-1-0. The Finance Committee voted in favor of this article. The Finance Committee feels that the Nature Explore classroom is a worthwhile venture and would be a good use of the playground space at the library. Although the Finance Committee is concerned about the ability to fund the build-out and ongoing maintenance of the project, the Finance Committee would like to see the feasibility study done so that the complete information is available to make a determination on the project. Thank you. Any questions? All right. Article 9.
I move that the town vote to transfer $28,430.66 into the unallocated Community Preservation Fund account as followed. $183.80 from cemetery mapping approved under Article 23, Fall Town Meeting 2004. $2,227.06 from Westfield Athletic Field approved under Article 19, Fall Town Meeting 2006. $5,100 from Minot Forest Land Survey approved under Article 27, Fall Town Meeting 2007. $1,750 from the Bike Path Feasibility Study approved under Article 10, Fall Town Meeting 2008. $4,362.80 from American Legion approved under Article 46, Springtown Meeting 2010. $10,332 from Tremont Nail Roof approved under Article 47, Springtown Meeting 2010. $4,475 from Wee Wee Antic Ahern approved under Article 41, Springtown Meeting 2012, or take any other action relative thereto.
Can we use we can't use it. I move as written in the warrant. I know you don't want to speak, but I really think that's a long one when it's written in the warrant.
I believe on item number G, you need to take out or take any other action relative thereto.
It doesn't need, that last line doesn't
Right.
need to be in there?
That should not be in the motion.
And if Bonnie is going to read it as fall town meeting, you may want to put the words town meeting in your motion, because if it's not printed up on the board and you say it, it's different. So Mary Ann has to go by what actually is on the tape.
Okay.
So if it's more comfortable for you to say fall town meeting or spring town meeting, you should write it in the motion so that what you're saying is exactly what's up on the screen.
Okay. How would you like me to do that, sir?
I'll make the change if you want to have town meeting. So we can't do as printed in the warrant because all the transfers are in the warrant. So can we not say I move the town vote to transfer 28,000 into the unallocated Communities Preservation Fund account as printed in the warrant?
You could?
All right, then that may shorten your night right there.
That's entirely up to you guys. I mean, if you want to do that, and this is going to be up on the screen. I thought her point was she wanted it read aloud according to what is on the screen.
Right.
So if it's
Well, the motion has to be correct. What you say has to match the motion, has to match what's happening. And because it is printed in the warrant, that does match it, and it saves you a lot of time. If you want to read all that, I will certainly, no, it's up to you. You're reading it.
What Claire's saying is the problem comes in if you read something that's not exactly, that's
oh, I
up
understand
there.
that. But now Larry was saying, why I could just stop with Community Preservation Fund account as printed in the warrant. Okay, so now everybody needs to look at this. But are you going to put all of these lines up on the screen?
No. The
So
motion
now
on
I'm-
the screen would be as printed
As
in the
printed
warrant.
in the warrant. So now everybody is looking down at their book. I think that, personally, I mean, the lighting isn't great in there, and I think having that fully up on the screen where people can see it is a help to a lot of people who can't read this.
Well, since you're reading
All
it, I will,
If you're okay
it's
with
up to you.
reading it.
If
Well,
you're
I'm
right-
just trying to get consistency. When we get into articles, I'm certainly not reading the entire changes of the voting legislation out loud, okay? So that's gonna be one of those as written in the warrant, okay, or as printed in the warrant. But when it comes to these sorts of numbers, I think that they can see what it is going right back in, and it's not a big deal.
Okay, do you want me to add the town meeting
No,
after?
I will just stop saying it,
You just say fall 206, yeah.
okay?
Is that okay if she just stops saying it? That makes it okay. Just as long as she says
Right.
fall 2004.
This is my dress rehearsal.
Yeah, if she just says fall 2004, that's
That's
fine.
fine.
That's
Okay.
okay. It's just that, I'm just trying to caution you that if you throw in town meeting,
Yeah,
if
it
it's,
has to be.
if it's more comfortable for her to say the fall town meeting, then that's what you should put in here.
I'm good. Just take that last line out, and we'll be all set there.
All right, well, let's see, where am I? The Finance Committee voted favorable action 700. The Finance Committee voted in favor of this action. As it is a housekeeping article, this action is a mechanism whereby funds that were allocated for a particular project but never spent are returned to the unallocated Community Preservation Fund so that these funds can be made available for future projects. Any questions or concerns? Article 10.
I move that the town vote to appropriate from the Community Preservation Fund under the category of historic preservation the sum of $110,000 for I can't say sorry, my tongue got tied of that. For a historic preservation restriction and the restoration of the multi-service center roof. Is it and? It's a, I know.
I thought they were getting rid of the historic
Historic
preservation
preservation.
part of it.
It might be something that we want to check on. I'm not sure if they've had a meeting. I know they had a problem getting a quorum.
All right.
I will email Mrs. Dunn.
I'm gonna circle circle that, put a question mark as to we're taking that out. Okay.
All right, let's see. Finance Committee voted favorable action. I guess I need my mic on. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 700. The Finance Committee voted in favor of this action as the multi-service center roof is in need of repairs and there is no money in the general budget to cover this. Using community preservation funds is an allowable use of the building is an allowable use as the building has historical significance, and since it was not purchased with community preservation funds, the town does not have to place a historic restriction on the building. I believe she actually did tell you that.
So, Larry,
change the
what I
motion.
would recommend, Chief, change the motion or else change the description to say the town may not have to place. You could just change in our explanation, may not have to place if it's going to be that way. So,
Okay.
I don't want you to.
I gotta make sure, I will check with her, I'll make sure, because I don't want to do that wrong. All right, any other questions? Article 11.
You ready?
You know,
Do you have a question, Tom?
I just think it strengthens this if you mention the fact that the air conditioning units are also going to be replaced as part of this, because it makes it a better project.
Well, I think that's what the proponent will discuss. That's not really us for recommendation, they'll discuss what they're
Good.
going to do.
Okay.
All right, 11.
I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $25,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation parking at Onset Pier to fund the parking kiosk program to be used for... Try that again.
What did I do here? Move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $25,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation parking at Onset Pier to fund the parking kiosk program to be used for related expenses of running the parking kiosk program.
I need a comma in there someplace big.
With such funds to be distributed by approval of the town administrator. It actually flows, but I think this one's gonna get on Marilyn's nerves because I need to take some caps out or put some
Right.
caps
But
in.
Kelly took the caps out in the book, so I'm happy.
Oh, so he'll it's, well, okay, I'll fix that.
Fix
You-
it in the
you need me
motion and
to-
we'll be all good.
I don't know how to break it down.
Perhaps?
If you say receipts reserved for appropriation parking at Onset Pier to fund the parking kiosk program, period.
You still have to go with the to be used.
Well, then take out to fund the parking, to be used for related expenses of running the parking kiosk program.
Yeah, I think the way it is now would be better for getting it through from the AG's office. So, unfortunately, it's a bunch of marbles in the mouth, but that's
all
the
right.
legalese.
I will speak slowly. It's okay.
Where is the 25,000 in our booklet? It doesn't state 25,000.
You're right, there's no number in the book.
Right, because that's what, we're actually moving that number.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
That's right, it doesn't match exactly what's in the book because it was, I don't know why it doesn't.
Because we didn't have the number available at the time that the original warrant went out. We know we're gonna do these things, but we need to confirm what the exact dollar amounts are gonna be in some of these cases.
Can I just answer that too? It might be helpful. Generally, when you do a warrant article, all you're doing is alerting people to what the subject matter is. For the most part, you do not want to put dollar amounts in unless you specifically know at that point that's exactly what you want, because it ties your hand to that exact number. If the number is printed in the warrant, that's all you can have in the motion. If you go above that number, then you create an issue for the moderator to determine whether that number is out of the scope of the article. So generally, when you put together a warrant, you do not include money in the warrant. You include the money in the motion.
It has in the past been a moving target. I mean, we've gone up to the actual not a town meeting, the numbers have changed. So that's why it's very difficult to,
Is that what this, any other action relative there too?
Right, that gives you a little, that gives the moderator a little flexibility if someone should come along with an amendment that might be a little different. By putting those words in, that gives you the flexibility to have a little bit of wiggle room to be able to say, yes, it's within the scope of the article. Because you're allowing or any other action. If you didn't have it, you'd have to be very specific in your motion, and that's what it would be, nothing beyond that.
But in making the motion, we leave that part out, is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you.
anybody else? Did I already do the, no, I haven't. The Finance Committee voted favorable action 700. The Finance Committee voted in favor of this action, although there are still several issues being worked through as to location, hours, fees, etc. The parking kiosk program has generated significant revenue since last July. Yeah, we started in July.
July 18th.
Right. As one of the only waterfront communities that didn't charge for parking, the town has missed out on potential income. This article would enable the town administrator to continue to run the program. Any issues with that?
No.
All right. Article 12 is a
Passover.
Passover. And that leads me to Article 13, which at this point it's a move to pass over. And if that changes, we're going to have to, I know, I'm about to give it all to you while I eat my cheesecake.
Thanks.
But Article 13, it's a passover right now, depending on what they vote tonight at the school committee. If it's not, then we'll readjust the motion, as well as we will probably have to do a handwritten explanation. As you know, we'll have to vote. Well, we weren't going to meet again until town meeting night, so we'll have to vote at that time and do a handwritten one for that one. So I'll turn it over to Marilyn, who will now get you through the rest of the book while I sit over here and watch.
I'm sorry. So you will know after their vote tonight whether it's going to be a Passover or whether we're going to write a new motion. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. Am I?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think they'd be requesting the motion from you if
Okay.
there's something different.
And the issue is that a funding source for this, and if they find the funding within their budget, it doesn't need to come before town meeting.
Correct.
Is my understanding of it. And you've already told them there is no funding source within the town side of the budget, so hopefully that's what they're finding tonight.
From what we've worked out, they will be reimbursed from the MSBA, and there's approximately, I believe, $9,250 that the town would need to come up from within its lines. So we'd have to freeze some of the expenditures, but there's no $60,000 available from the town side.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so Bonnie, Article 14.
I move that the town vote to transfer from available funds to accounts as shown in the chart below. $80,000 from receipts reserved for appropriation, sale of real estate, to debt principal. $20,000 from debt principal to the planning salary line item.
Okay, and the Finance Committee voted favorable action, 600. This article is a housekeeping article that allows the town to reallocate funds between departments. Article 15.
I move that the town vote to fund the following union contracts as shown in the chart below. Steelworker lower unit, amount not to exceed $8,000. Article 9, I'm sorry, what does ATM stand for?
That would be the annual town meeting.
Thank you.
Probably for the persons, it'd probably be better for annual town meeting.
why
We
I
can
asked.
change it and write it up in here.
I think you're missing something too, because
We're
I think
missing
it
a
should
year
say
here.
2012.
Yeah, I need a
Should it
year.
not?
Yep.
It's
Where does it
2012?
say 2012?
Yep, I believe your Article 9, yep, that's missing in there.
Spring 2012?
So I would leave it like that, the annual town meeting of
Annual
2012.
I'm
Because
sorry.
we had it listed as 5/12 was the date,
So annual town meeting 2012?
2012.
Thank you. Let me try that again. Steelworker lower unit not to exceed $8,000. Article 9, annual town meeting 2012, collective bargaining reserve. Steelworker upper union not to exceed unit. I'm sorry. So you gotta make this bigger, Larry. Steelworker upper unit not to exceed $7,000. Article 9, annual town meeting 2012, collective bargaining reserve.
Finance Committee voted favorable action, 6-0-0. This article appropriates funds from the reserve for contract negotiations to cover ratified union contracts.
Mr. Chairman, we do have at least in the write-up that I have, it says lower management and upper management versus unit.
Hold on.
We should be consistent.
Correct. In the book, it says lower management and upper management.
Yeah, but
Is
the
that-
actual contracts with the units, correct?
We have the steel worker, the lower unit, and the upper unit, and there's probably about 4 different ways you can identify them.
So that's
They've been
not a
called
technical.
Unit A and B before,
Alright.
so.
I think it's fine.
Do you want to it's fine as written? Or do you want to, could we refer to them as steelworker lower? What have we got on here?
I'll pull up the contract real quick to see what the exact,
Yeah, I think it's fine the way it is. It's not too big of a blip that it's gonna be noticeable, but if we do run into any issues, we can make the change. I wouldn't want to change it the way it's,
we know them as the the upper unit and lower unit internally, and you have the United Steelworkers AFL-CIO Local Union 13507 Unit 5 department heads, and you've got the United Steelworkers grade Steelworkers AFL-CIO Local Union 13507 grades 1 through 7. But for our own financing, I wouldn't see. We have them listed as the upper and lower management.
unless somebody has an objection, I just leave it like it is, other than the change for the 2012.
Okay, so you want me
Anybody-
to say lower unit and upper unit?
Yeah,
So you want,
That would work fine.
that'll
okay,
work.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Article 16. Is it pass over?
Yep.
Article 17.
I move that the town vote to amend all references to 50 years in the present Wareham demolition delay bylaw, Division 8, Article 3, to 75 years, and further to add the demolition delay bylaw language to the beginning of the section titled Historic District Act. Any property requesting demolition that lies within Wareham Historical District shall apply to the Wareham Historical District Commission for a determination and certificate of appropriateness. The Wareham Historical Commission, as regards to these properties, has no jurisdiction and does not issue demolition permits for these said properties.
The Finance Committee voted favorable action, 5-1-0. Our recommendation, the Finance Committee voted favorable action on this article. The Wareham Historical Commission feels that the change from 50 years to 75 years provides a better benchmark to the historical significance of its structure. Article 18.
I move that the town vote to amend the Town of Wareham Waterways Bylaw Division 4, Article 1, Section 2B, and replace it with a new Waterways Rules and Regulations, Sections 28 through,
To be.
I'm sorry, bigger, Larry, bigger, Sections 2B through 2M as printed in the appendix.
Larry, is that in your book?
Yes.
Okay.
And is it labeled anything?
It's actually half our book, just so you know.
So that should come out of his budget, right? He's taken up all our papers, so it's just labeled
It's just Waterways Bylaw
amendment,
yeah.
okay? That's fine. Our Finance Committee voted favorable action 7-0-0. The Finance Committee recommends the proposed changes to the Waterways bylaw. This is a needed update from the current bylaws adopted in 1998 and 1999.
I guess I should use my mic. I think we can read the motions for 19, 20, 21, 22, but we really don't have any recommendations at this point, so, or 23, I think. I'm sorry. Mrs. Donahue's covering all that.
No, you were doing just fine.
No, you're doing better. Go.
I apologize since I missed last week. Where do we stand on Article 19? That's the Cranberry Lane layout?
According to Selectman Slavin, they're still not done. And I was going to bring this up, but I can, hold on a second. They may or may not be done. We won't know until closer to the 28th. At that point, we'll move to pass over that article if they're not done. I do want to point out that I had an email to the Finance Committee. Cranberry Way is off of Great Neck Road, not Swiss Beach. Just want to let you guys know that. So I think that was the discussion we had last week of where it was located. That's where it's located.
So we're not going to talk about Article 20, which is the transfer of development rights, because that's having the public hearing on Monday night. So we've not taken a vote on that yet. Okay. Oh, okay. It's not on there.
I think we thought we just did not have enough information, and because the public hearing was after the print date, that we went with no action. And if anybody wants to attend the hearing,
21st.
the 21st, that's correct. So as far as our explanations, it's pretty simple. The public hearing on the article is scheduled for October 21st. The Finance Committee could not render an opinion prior to the printing of the warrant without complete information.
And I can read that in the right verb tense when we get there, so that's
Did
okay.
I screw it up? Is that
No, no, that's fine. You read it now for fine, but after, town meeting will be after the 21st, so that's fine.
Okay.
Article 21. Oh, Bonnie, I think you should read this one all the way out.
It'd be crazy with all the numbers.
Where are we?
21.
The last word on the motion on 21 is not warrant, it's handout.
Okay.
That was my mistake.
No. 21.
What do they call them, a Scrivener's error?
21 is in here.
21's in here? That's a floodplain overlay. That's not in there.
They have a
didn't put that-
handout available?
I know, but there's, well, according to my conversation with Mr. Slavin is they were going to have a handout. So
That's Article 20.
they're going to have one for 20, 21, 22, and 23, and 24. It's a heck of a handout. It sounds like a book.
Yeah, but, I mean, you're talking two different things. What I have here as the motion, it says, I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaw, section 222, floodplain overlay district of the floodplain bylaw map panel number suffixes and map panel dates as printed in the warrant.
Well, then it should be in the warrant. I'm sorry, I had it.
It is in
confused.
the warrant.
That
Yes.
is here, that's all this.
My
stuff.
mistake. That should be warrant. I forgot that was printed in there.
Does anybody have any questions about that one?
You know how many people are gonna raise their hand on that? 8 million. That's gonna take 2 hours to do that. At least.
Tom?
Is this part of this, is what discussion we may have, points we might like to bring up with respect to this warrant article?
I think what we'll do is we'll read our vote first, so we'll say that we voted favorable action 5. Yeah, 5-2-0.
Probably shouldn't have, but we did.
Yeah, that's,
Well, then we'll read the official explanation, and then we'll see who of us want to stand up and say other things. The official explanation is the Finance Committee reluctantly voted in favor of this action. Although the Finance Committee believes there are some inconsistencies in the new maps, and there is a great deal of concern over the increased cost to homeowners regarding flood insurance, the consequences of not accepting the updated federal floodplain maps could deny residents and businesses in the town access to flood insurance coverage.
does that pretty much cover what you were gonna discuss?
No, because the major issue is the valuation of the real estate that now falls within the floodplain and its impact on the revenue to the town. I mean, it's gonna be significant, and we don't know what it's gonna be.
I know it's, we don't know what it's gonna be.
My recommendation on this is that the whole thing go up for further study, because the floodplain as drawn by FEMA is getting all sorts of heat from Louisiana to Maine. And the cost of the insurance is also somewhat in doubt.
It'll be devastating to people.
Well, devastating to individuals, but even more devastating to the town if the value of the real estate goes down by a third. I don't know what the revenue is from those houses that are now going to go within the floodplain, and how the evaluation is going to change of those properties as a result of their insurance going from $2,000 to $40,000. I mean, that's the type of question that we should know about before we just jump into this thing.
Yeah, two quick things on it. One thing is most likely what would just happen is the rates are going to go up. The 1047 that you pay now per thousand would go up. By Proposition 2.5, we cannot go over the levy limit, but that levy, even when the valuations go down, will not go down. So even if the values of those properties go down, it's the honest thing is to everybody know that the values can go down, but you're still going to be
There's still a revenue
approximately
can
the
stay
yeah. So
plus 2.5.
that's one of the that's one of the protections. But again, Proposition 2.5, where you can't go over, but you're still going to always increase by 2.5%. So the levy's effectively not going to go down. So, and that's tough for the people, because if the value of your property is going down, but in some sectors
Is the
the
2.5
assessments
apply to
are-
each individual, or does it apply to the total revenue
No, it's
from
the-
all the properties?
it's the levy limit as a whole. But when you think about as a whole, so you're talking about, you're literally talking about billions of dollars when you have the town as a whole. So, we're assessing off of the valuation, for every $1,000, 1047 or, 0.01047 pennies per cents per the value of your house. So even when the houses go down, you still have that let's call it $3 billion of valuation that you can raise and set and have your budget off of. So you effectively are not going to go down.
So will that mean that the houses that are not within the plain go up higher than?
Yeah, there's going to be you know, it's going to be a shared cost across the whole town.
Okay.
So,
So,
We actually had this conversation when George Barrett was here.
yeah.
And one of the problems that we had with this article was regardless of what we voted, they're going to go ahead and do this.
Now, hold on.
Yeah, my
Hold on.
understanding is this would hurt people from getting
This
flood
this will
insurance.
actually, that was the thing. If we didn't go ahead and vote on this, it would stop or it would hinder people getting the flood insurance they needed.
it may.
It may, but you know what?
Even Maxine Waters realizes that it's
Well,
bad.
then perhaps we need to have a conversation again with George Barrett, because I thought we had him and
The
we cleared it
lawsuit.
all up the last time we had talked. Go ahead.
Right? You know, I have a lot of property in the flood zones, and right now there's a class action suit against FEMA regarding this. I don't know if that was noted before that this article came in. I've been notified about it. I don't know if it's going to affect it at all, but there is a class action suit right now going on against FEMA and the new floodplain maps, and that's just not in Wareham. That's in all the areas. And so I don't know if that's going to affect what we should do or not. You know, do you wait to the outcome of that stuff, or do you move on?
If I may, I think the one thing that you have to keep in mind that the article before us is whether or not to accept the maps. That's the only question coming before us.
Right.
And to get off on these other discussions is not, although it's relevant information, that's not what's before you. So you have to keep your discussion to why you feel we should accept the maps or why you feel we shouldn't. So,
But if there's a lawsuit about the maps, is that
And-
something we should vote on?
but when you make your statements, you have to tie it to what's before you. In other words, we recommend that you vote in favor of this because everybody will be able to get flood insurance. We recommend that you don't vote for this because it's gonna cost, money or whatever, but the question before us is, do you accept the maps? And that's the issue that's before us. So we can't go too far off from that issue. I mean, it can allow a certain amount of discussion, but the question before us is, do we accept the maps or don't we accept the maps? And that's where we tend to stray on town meeting, because we get sidetracked with all of the side discussions, and we don't really focus on what is the question before you. The question before you is, do you accept the maps or don't you accept the maps?
But-
And that's the question before you.
I understand, but how do you accept something that's being challenged now in the court system? To me, you almost
You
gotta
have to-
wait for the outcome of something before we accept it, because the way I read the lawsuit is that FEMA's doing this because it has lost a tremendous amount of money in other areas of the country. And in order for them, what they're saying is, in order for them to make that money up, is that they are redoing the maps in certain areas of town without any proof that the 100-year flood is going to affect these areas. They're trying to get money from other areas in the country to help areas that have been hit hard, and that's what the lawsuit is about. That's what I read. I could be wrong, but that's what I read.
But tie it to that being the reason why you would not support this article. So what I'm trying to say is tie that argument to your reason why you would not support the article. Instead of getting into a broader discussion,
Yeah.
my reason why I would not support this article would be because of
Well-
this lawsuit.
Excuse me, this is for Larry. I found this information out after our vote. I don't know if we can re-vote or we have to stay with this vote because it's printed.
We don't have to stay with the vote. We can reconsider it, but my question, and I agree, is that at
Okay.
this point, we'll take another vote if you'd like to. That makes our information in there null and void, and we'll have to read a different one, what people are gonna see on the floor, and I'm really uncomfortable with that because,
Yeah.
but I understand where you're coming from, but we don't need to do this tonight because really at this point, we don't have anybody here that's an expert on what's going on.
No, I'm not either. I don't expect to be. I'm
And,
just-
and all we're going to do is sit here and talk about this stuff and waste time. And
Okay.
I understand what you're saying, and I'm okay with it, but it
Yeah.
needs to go
I
to the
would vote
proper
differently.
people.
With the information I know now, I would vote differently, but, it's
And-
up
and
to the
I-
group.
and-
That's
and
okay. It's
We
up to
can
the group.
reconsider the vote. We have that, you have that ability. If you want to you know, you can have a, what is it, a motion to reconsider, and if you get a second, we'll take another vote. If you want to do that, I'll entertain the motion if you'd like it.
I'd make a motion to reconsider our vote with the new information in which I have found regarding Article 21.
Got a second?
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of reconsideration?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, so what do we got? We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and the motion fails.
Okay.
So.
All right, leave it alone.
But I encourage you to stand up and make your case on town meeting floor. I really do, because I at this point,
It's okay, I understand totally.
if we had everybody here that night that Mr. Barrett was here talking about it, and I would have understood it better.
Yeah.
Because
I don't
I understand why they're doing it,
Yeah.
and I also understand why not doing it is a bad idea.
Right. But
Because-
I don't know if Mr. Barrett knew that this class actions, I just found out a couple days ago. He might not have even been aware of it.
Okay,
So
but
that's why
my
that's why I
point is,
mentioned it.
if we don't do it,
Yeah,
and it turns out to be a bad idea,
yeah.
you know, these people can't get insurance, then we have another problem because our tax base changes because they leave town.
Okay, okay.
So, I mean, I can, if you want to make I can make anything financial you'd like to, or I can
No,
make it
no,
non-financial.
we'll-
There's a ramification for either side of this, and neither one looks pleasant.
I'll try to research it more and we'll leave it alone. Thank you.
Go ahead, Derek.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think I'll reach out to MEMA and FEMA to see if we can get the exact language, but my understanding it's what happens if you don't accept it, the town doesn't accept it, ineligibility to participate in the National Flood Insurance Program, which was established in 1968, and thus property owners and renters would be unable to purchase the taxpayer-subsidized federal flood insurance under the program. In addition, federal grants, loans, disaster assistance, and federal mortgage insurance, and possibly mortgage loans would not be available for the acquisition or construction of structures located in the floodplain.
Make sure you have that handy next Monday, Derek.
I can go either way on this as far as arguing it, but in the end, reality is that the people of this town, if we don't do that, or if everybody shows up and says, you know what, I'm not going to do it, then this is what they face. So, and I don't particularly want to lose my insurance or anything else either,
No,
so just so you know.
That's not what I'm getting at as far as the insurance, but if FEMA is being, you know, put to the test that their flood maps are right or wrong, I don't think that that's gonna affect anyone's, you know, actual insurance. Am I right or wrong? I mean, what I'm saying is
I'm
that
with you.
FEMA is gonna be put up against it of why their maps are where they are. That's what I'm getting at. I don't think it's gonna hold up our insurance at all. I just think that they're saying that their flood maps aren't relevant to certain areas.
But if their flood maps gets changed, then it will get changed. The town will then accept the
I
changed
guess
flood
it
maps.
means nothing. Yeah, okay.
I mean, the reality is you can challenge on an individual basis. You can, if you don't believe that your property is in a correct flood zone, and you can go fight with them over that. That's
So we
always
should-
an option.
So basically, as long as we agree with it, we're
We
all
don't
gonna
have
be
to agree
covered,
with
and then
it. We don't agree with it. We don't have to
If
agree
you
with it. We
read
just have to
read
accept
the
it.
advice that we've written in there with the inconsistencies in the maps, which we've pointed out, I think what we've tried to do is make this, from our standpoint as a committee, and tell me if I'm wrong, because everybody's sitting here,
Yeah.
is we're saying that we don't agree with this, but if we don't do this, these are the ramifications. So that's
Okay.
why we voted the way we voted.
okay.
Yes.
Derek, where did you get that, which you just read, that it was a fait accompli, that the insurance would not be available?
That was one of the local articles, so that's why I'm going.
I mean, I've read a local article that says it may not be
Yeah,
available.
so that's why I said it would be better to reach out to MEMA and then FEMA. Of course, in a government shutdown, trying to get information is a little tough.
Challenging.
Okay, Mr.
Through the chair, Derek, if you could, I know that Chatham voted it down,
Yeah.
and
A lot of towns do.
I suspect a number of towns have, and I wonder if it's possible to get a readout through your associates as to how many towns have voted it down and how many have accepted it.
Absolutely.
I know. Sandwich, Brewster.
Want to move on to Article 22? You're in charge, Mrs. Donahue.
Article 22,
That's another one of
there's
those.
another one that is the zoning articles.
So
Artic- Article 23 is the sign regulations.
Okay, so, if these are gonna go forward, we're not gonna withdraw them, so obviously, I just wanna double check here, you got, so the medical marijuana situation, they're gonna have a full descriptive handout of that, I have on here. And then the sign regulation, they will have a full descriptive handout for that, is that correct?
That's my understanding at this point.
Okay.
So we won't know ahead of time what the handouts differ from the warrant.
No, we won't, which is, well, there's nothing in the warrant. The handouts, I mean, we're talking about sign changes. Are they gonna print this this is what was there and this is what we're replacing it with? Because.
That's what we asked them to do.
That's, well, okay.
But that doesn't mean that's how they'll do it.
And then they'll have, the full description of what a marijuana treatment center is. So that's all right.
You're okay with those, so we'll
Yep,
know.
it says as with the handout, and I'm fine with that.
Okay. Question will be, are we going to give any other kind of opinion, or are we going to go back and revote these after the 21st?
Up to the committee. Again, if we're taking votes on the night of town meeting, I'm okay with that. If everybody wants to reconsider something, or if we want to vote, because right now there's no action, because they've not had their public hearing. If anybody wants to attend, then I encourage them to attend, and we can vote, we can re-vote on the night of town meeting. We'll meet at 6 p.m. if anybody has any consideration, whether or not we'll change a vote or something. Especially,
We believe we'll have more information, Larry?
I don't think I'll have enough to make,
Well,
Unless I go to the meeting on the 21st.
he's talking about just the zoning, 20,
Yeah.
22, and 23.
I mean, if we don't have any more information, our votes might as well stand.
yeah, I don't see any reason to change it. I think this was one of those that'll either be confusing or discussed a lot on the floor. I think these may be the kind of roadblock articles where people that have a special interest so, all right.
So the last one we have to worry about is Article 24.
I move that the town vote to amend the zoning bylaws by voting to accept the table of principal use regulations contained in Article 3, Section 320, and the table of accessory use regulations in Article 3, Section 340, as printed in the handout. So they're going to have a handout for that as well?
They're going to have enough handouts to cover people in paper.
We voted favorable action 6-0-0. It's a housekeeping article to ensure compliance for zoning changes. The other two articles were citizens petition articles, and I believe that they're going to make their own motions. That will be up to them to.
We also have our own, but we do have advice, right? Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Camerano.
Thank you very much. Sorry again. Going back to Article 24, which we just discussed, we voted favorable action. Have we heard what the Board of Selectmen voted yet? Or are they still undecisive? Because I think that us voting favorable action without hearing what the Board of Selectmen voted, kind of, if it's not a no action vote or something like that, we voted favorable without hearing from the Board of Selectmen. I just don't think that sends the right message.
What message do you think it sends?
It sends the message that the Board of Selectmen here are not voting, they're undecisive because either they don't have enough information or something, but yet we do.
Yeah, we had Mr. Barrett came before the committee and
Mr. Barrett must have
presented.
come before them also.
I have
They
no
still
idea.
don't have enough information.
We-
My personal opinion is, I don't think it sends the right message.
I guess the message we try to send is we voted on it that night. If anybody has a disagreement with that vote, we can certainly discuss it. But Mr. Barrett said, basically, these are changes that were made previous to the change for the planner change that we had in town. And,
Okay.
these were all done beforehand. So I get concerned when we're sitting here talking about an article that we've had a pretty lengthy discussion on that night that we had it.
We did, but I didn't believe that the Board of Selectmen did not vote. I don't remember that. It's my fault.
Okay, I'm going to try to say this in a nice way.
Go ahead.
Whatever they vote is however they vote. However we vote is how we vote. I think we are looking at this, in my opinion, we're looking at this with the information, and I think we're relatively intelligent people. And whether or not we have to wait on whether or not the selectmen vote, I will never do that. Unless it's something that's directly affected by the selectmen.
Larry, excuse me, 1 second. I understand what you said, but this article was inserted by the Board of Selectmen, yet they don't vote.
They have to insert all articles.
I understand that, but think about what it says. Okay, they do allow it, they put it in there, but they're not gonna vote for it, but yet we're gonna vote favorable action without knowing what they do. Just, I'll let it go. Thank you. I'll let it go.
When you hear from the proponent, and the proponent sits up here and talks to you, then you have, did anybody feel uncomfortable with the decision we made on that article?
Yeah, I do, because our status says this is a housekeeping article. How can it be a housekeeping article when the Board of Selectmen don't vote on it?
Were you here? that
I
night?
was here, and
Okay.
I agree with you. What Mr. Barrett said seemed to be the right thing to do. But now, obviously, I have a second opinion. Maybe other people don't. But when it said, when our recommendation is this is a housekeeping article and the Board of Selectmen don't vote, think about the message we're sending out. I'm only looking at the message we're sending. Am I wrong?
I think that's the message the Board of Selectmen is sending, not the message that
You're
we're
looking at
sending.
what they're saying isn't right? They don't know as much as we know?
They may have gotten to the same point that we did with the zoning, that they were just holding it, and that this
and
may
they
have
never
gotten
got
lumped
back
in
to
with
it.
that.
That's what I think happened too.
I-
Take back everything I said, thank you.
So I think that may just have been a technicality on their part, Tom. I don't sit through all their meetings, but
Okay, thank you. Shut my mouth.
Hey, I got Necco wafers, I'm happy.
Thank you, all right.
I
Love the
got
crop
cheesecake,
things.
I'm happy.
What, do you
All
want
right,
to,
so-
do you want to read the advice, or do you not want to read the advice on the last two?
Oh, do you want to
just in
read the
case
advice
Mis-
in the last two?
Just in
Okay.
case Mr. Camerata wants to change his
I'll
mind
shut my
again.
mouth, I'm sorry.
So we're not making the motion.
That's correct.
Article 25 is a change zoning statutes to 2002 statutes. We voted the vote was made for favorable action. Nobody was in favor of it. We voted 0-7-0. We voted negative on this article due to several factors. The first being that it would be impossible for the Finance Committee to properly study such a zoning statutes change without reviewing all of the 2002 statutes and comparing them to any changes made through the present year. Secondly, there is a town zoning board of appeals, and we must rely upon them to do their duty to see that all zoning statutes are in the best interest of the town. The Finance Committee feels that such an article as this seeks to circumvent the due process of the zoning board of appeals.
I have one comment on that. The zoning board of appeals doesn't review to see that all zoning statutes are in the best interest of the town. They don't do that. They take the zoning articles, and there are ways that they can provide someone can appeal a decision to them, and they can rule on that application. So I'd like to reword that.
Please do.
A little bit.
Makes more sense.
Go ahead and, you want to rewrite it up? Is that what you want to do?
Okay, so who comes up with zoning articles?
It's actually, it could be planning as well as zoning, correct?
I think
Yeah.
what I'd do is I'd say, secondly, the Finance Committee feels that such an article as this seeks to circumvent the due process of the Zoning Board of Appeals. I think I'd take out, there's a town zoning board of appeals, and we must rely upon them to do
No, it
their
should have been
duty
the
to see that
planning-
all
there
zoning
is a- it
statutes
should
are
have
in the
been
best
planning
interest of
board
the
there.
town.
So it's in here, it's already written here, but I won't read it out loud. I'll just take that sentence out.
I'd take that sentence out.
Okay.
Okay.
And I thought Bonnie should have added, it would be impossible for the Finance Committee or anyone to properly study the zoning statute changes. I mean, we don't know really what we're going back to. Correct. That's the whole point of it, so. All right. Thank you for that. Article 26 required physical attendance of all members of public bodies. We voted no action on this, 7-0-0. The Finance Committee voted no action on this article, as the Finance Committee feels that the article is flawed as presented. While the proponents of this article have sought some legal advice on the matter, what they're presenting here does not appear to be a bylaw change. While the Finance Committee will not give any opinion at this time on the pros and cons of the adoption of remote participation, the Finance Committee feels that a full dialogue on the advantages and/or disadvantages of its use should be considered, and therefore no action be taken on this article. I think what we were trying to make clear on this was that it really wasn't up to town meeting. This isn't something that should be in the purview of town meeting. It belonged with the Board of Selectmen, and it just,
This was the prerogative of the selectmen to
And-
accept it as general law or not.
Yes, it had nothing, it was not, it's not, does not belong at town meeting. And
Right.
even though it was the prerogative to accept it, it's now the prerogative of every department, or sorry, every chairman of each board to whether or not to apply it. So you have ins and outs, and I understand some of the arguments he's making, but it just doesn't belong in town meeting. Those are not the kind of, I mean, I don't know what the town meeting's gonna be able to do about this.
is he still
He
going
still
forward
is.
as far as you
He
know?
still is.
Okay.
All right. So any other questions on the warrant? Now that we've stirred up a couple more hornets' nests, we realize that Springtown meeting, we're gonna have to start a little earlier because we changed our minds and we got all kinds of, we find things out later, so. All right. Town meeting dates, town meeting's October 28th. And we will meet at 6 p.m. that night before town meeting starts
Where, in the,
in the cafeteria. Okay, we have to discuss and authorize payment of an invoice I-140-48378. WB Mason. It's the, you want to explain it?
Well, it's just the materials for the copying of the warrant.
What's the hot tub thing? Oh, no, sorry, the wrong thing. So it's just the materials for printing the warrant.
nice
so,
color. Somebody already pointed that out, but it is.
Yeah, I listen. Hey, if anybody here, I think we owe a big thanks to Kelly. The
The best.
the amount of work that she puts into this and the quality she puts out is exceptional. So we're very fortunate to have her. So
Let's go.
I'll entertain a motion to authorize payment.
I move that we authorize payment of the WB Mason bill.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, that's 800. All right. Did you want to add anything? I know you're getting tired. Is there anything you need to add?
I don't have anything to wow you with tonight.
Well,
so.
you need to grab you some food and go home then.
Well, thank you. Have a good night. And I
Thank you
appreciate
for all
this
your
tonight.
hard work too. It's really easier when we work together and get the information. It's nice
Thank you, Derek.
to
Makes things work
getting
well
in
for me.
advance.
So, thank you all. I appreciate it.
We got a whole week off.
Well, I'm getting there. Just calm down. Don't. All right, we're getting there. Thank you.
We can,
All right, new business. We'll make this quick. I did get a letter from Deborah Jean Rose, and that was the explaining Cranberry Way is off of Great Neck Road. So that was a correction to one of our meetings. We also received another application for the Finance Committee. We probably will not. We'll probably meet the candidate after town meeting. It's just too much going on for us to try to meet him. Couldn't do it tonight, and Bonnie's just sitting there waiting for the next one.
No, I'm just wondering who it was.
We'll get into that. I don't know if all you received this in your email, but you, in recognition of your hard work, commitment, and dedication to the town of Wareham, the Board of Selectmen cordially invite you to a volunteer appreciation evening to be held Friday, December 6th, 2013 at 6 p.m. in the Multi-Service Center Gymnasium. You know the address. Please RSVP to the Selectmen's office. Did you all get that in your email? Okay. Dominic, check your email for once.
Thanks for
Did
that.
you check?
give it to Dom.
When did that come out, today?
It came out today.
Oh, today. Okay.
I'm just covering this as less than 48 hours. So the other thing is, and I believe I handed them off to Marilyn already, if you'll go to Wareham Week, I know everybody reads it, you'll see on there that there is a section that now the Finance Committee can post their meetings. I'm trying to make this as, we have a media relations person who's going to be able to post the minutes of our meeting, agendas if we'd like, and announcements. Let's just call it that. But we haven't discussed the parameters. You guys pay attention to this because this is real important. We haven't discussed the parameters beyond that. And one of the things I would say is that if posts below that are allowed, I would ask each of you, please do not engage. If somebody has something to say, let them say it. Our job is to put the information out there. Our job is not to debate with somebody's screen name or not screen name. I don't know what we're not there to do this. We're there to get information out. So we can, Marilyn, would you like to discuss
No, I was
it?
just going to say, the only times in the past that I have responded on the comments section is when there's gross information, misinformation out there, and we kind of have a little saying, it's just the facts. I don't put an opinion, I just put in fact. If I do put in opinion, I don't do, I will say there was discussion on the Finance Committee. I think I actually haven't done that. I can't remember any time I've done it recently. I think at this point what I'm going to post, the upcoming meetings, I'm
Right.
not sure I'm going to put in the minutes as much as I'll put in the highlights of the meetings if I'm so moved to do that. I think as the budget comes around, I think it will be more critical that we get things in there because I think that's more important than how we weigh in on where the medical marijuana center is going to be. So, yeah, but I would encourage anyone that wants something to be said out there, and I don't read it, I don't go on and read comments on a daily basis. So if somebody sees something or is alerted to something that the public is misinformed about, I think that's critical that we step up and say something there. Other than that, just, I'm with Larry, just let it go.
I want to be proactive, not reactive, because reactive causes problems. Also, first off, we want to thank Wareham Week for allowing us. It's a complimentary thing. I believe they've done it with other people, but it's very important to us to another avenue for getting our message out. We just have to be careful of the message, and I haven't discussed whether we can even eliminate posts. We may be able to put information out there without any posts, which may be a better option for us. But either way, I don't think we should engage people that have anything to say below our comments. I don't. Anybody disagree with that?
I don't think you're going to stop them, and you shouldn't block people from commenting. However, the members of this committee should just take it with a grain of salt. People are going to have something to say no matter what you do, and don't read it. I stopped reading it a long time ago.
Well, I did, but I'm going to be curious. I just used it to post that we were having a meeting.
Right.
Any chance we get to inform people we're having a meeting, our goal is to advise town meeting, and sometimes it's easier to advise the body at town meeting, but also if we can get the public aware of what we discuss, they watch our meetings. Obviously they do, they're sending emails now. But if they can see something in the printed edition of the paper or even online, then it helps them get ready for town meeting. That's something that I think we should be using it for. Any disagreement? All right. Well, no liaison reports, correct? All right. I need a motion to approve the meeting minutes of October 9th, 2013. Come on, somebody make a motion.
Make a motion to accept the minutes
I need a
October 9th.
second.
from 10:13.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Abstain.
Abstain. Okay, so it's 701? That's correct. All right. The next meeting is not next week. I think we're in good shape. I will get more information to you. I'll shore these up. We'll meet the night of town meeting at 6 p.m. in the cafeteria before there. If anybody's going to, just to let you know, the board, is it the zoning board or the planning board, has the the hearing on October 21st. I'd encourage people to attend. And if there's any changes with the school, whether or not we're pulling the article, I'll let you know. Is there anything else anybody wants to add? Go ahead.
I'd like to back up, just back a little bit before and ask a question to the board or to everyone. Has anyone here ever seen an article that we commented on that was a housekeeping article that doesn't have a selectman vote? This is really bothering me, Larry. And I'd just like to
I think the selectmen skipped over all of these zoning articles. They skipped over all of them as a group.
They
And
did
they
not.
did that intentionally because they weren't.
To be honest with you, because they weren't done by 21st, and they don't care whether their votes are in, we do have to have our votes in, that they were going to hold off until after the hearing. That's my understanding. And to be honest with you, boy, no, I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, I've just never seen it, that's all. I've just never, ever seen it.
I think the finance committee, people look for the finance committee votes. I don't know if they look for the selectmen's vote. I personally don't. I
John?
look for our votes.
And maybe housekeeping isn't exactly the best term for putting it there. We tend to think of housekeeping articles of financial articles where you're transferring money from one account to another, you're just
Thank you.
clarifying and cleaning it up. This, and I'm going to speak outside the finance committee,
Go
because
ahead,
I've
go ahead.
actually had the occasion to go into the planning office and to try to get updated zoning bylaws. It's a little bit confusing in there. I'm not going to look at Kelly when I say that. I have actually plowed through piles and
Well,
piles.
then-
It's not organized, and there's a concern that some of these things that have come up are there, but they don't have the proper reference back or whatever. So by doing this, it cleans it up. So it's housekeeping for zoning and planning, not housekeeping for finances, so it's a little bit different.
I know, and I'm not, I don't care if this says X, Y, Z. I'm not going back and saying that I don't disagree or agree with whatever is written. I'm just looking here to protect us, because I don't believe it's a housekeeping article, number one, and I think that there's more to it than what it says. Now, it could be anything. I don't care if it says X, Y, Z. I just think that we are coming across wrong. How's that for an answer?
Were you here the night that he spoke
I
to us?
was here that night. Larry and
you
I
voted?
agreed with it that night from what I hear. But now that I see it printed in the warrant, I'm just saying that I'm looking to, because I'm gonna tell you something, this
Did you
blows
ask the
up,
Board of
it's gonna look
Selectmen?
like we got egg in our face, and this committee doesn't deserve that.
I'm
Because
not sure what blows up. I mean, we're talking about
because-
changes in the, that were done previously, and it was explained to us by the planner. They've gone back and they made
Okay.
these changes accordingly.
We listened to Mr. Barrett, we heard what he said, and we agreed with it. That was what we agreed with. Now, we're taking just his opinion. I know that he's the board of the zoning and all that, but, you know, we're not looking at what the selectmen said. Now, whether or not we look at what they say or what they don't say, just the way just the way that it's appearing in the book, to me, Larry, puts our head on the chopping block that it's just not right. I'm sorry, it just says a housekeeping
Anybody else?
article, the selectmen didn't vote. Just my personal opinion,
Go ahead,
I
Tom.
could be wrong.
Mr. Worthy?
The only, I mean, I agree to the extent that we don't want to appear to be confrontational with the selectmen. So it's always nice, if you know that they're against it, let's say, then we should be more circumspect in being for it to make sure that we're on solid ground. We just don't want to have we want to have a cooperative attitude with the.
I don't think
way
we
the
do
selectmen
anything
vote.
but cooperate
I-
with them.
I agree-
But
I agree
but
with
our
that.
charge is to
I don't-
advise
I don't know
town
why they
meeting.
didn't vote on it. That's,
Because they said, and I believe at that meeting, they said
waiting
that
for the 21st.
they're waiting for the 21st. They don't have the deadline we have. This is what I mean about our vote versus their vote. Our vote is part of the charter that we advise town meeting. You don't see any other, it's not the selectmen advise town meeting, it's the finance committee. And our job is to have the proponents of the article come speak before us and to use that information, question them, and make a decision. And that's what we did. As far as my head on the chopping block, if Mr. Barrett is correct in what he says, I'm fine. If he's not, then we based it on that, and it's all on tape. Our job is to give them the best advice we can, and that's what we've done. And I'm not saying that whatever the selectmen vote, they vote. It's up to them, but our deadlines are our deadlines, and it is our job to advise town meeting. And if you're uncomfortable with your advice, please let me know. If you want to go back and revisit it, we can take another vote to reconsider. But I personally feel like we have to trust the proponent of the article. That's in my opinion, you have to trust the proponent of the article. If you don't trust them, you'll find out during the questioning, which we done. So.
Agree. I agree with you, and okay, let's say I even say I'll stand by our vote without hearing from the selectmen. But read our recommendation. However, this is a housekeeping article to ensure compliance for zoning changes. See handout. I don't see it being a housekeeping article. I think that's sending out the wrong message about what the zoning is trying to do with the whole thing. Just again,
Well,
my
if you want to
personal
rewrite
opinion.
the advice, please have it written and give it, turn it
just
in. My feeling is it is a housekeeping article. They do this periodically to go back in and clean up the errors or the omissions that they've had in there. It is a housekeeping article. I think it's an apt description of it. You may not like the description, but that's exactly what it is. Anybody disagree with that? Yes.
Perhaps, typically we think of a housekeeping article in the Finance Committee as a finance type of housekeeping. This is a housekeeping article for the planning board and the planning board's documents.
Right.
And I think perhaps if we put that in there, this was a housekeeping article that was requested by the planning board to make their documents clearer.
Nevertheless, it's still a housekeeping article. You just want it to.
No, I don't like it.
Okay.
The word in here says amend. When you amend something, it's not housekeeping.
It is
You're
a-
changing something.
Okay, let me try this another way.
You're
and
amending
I'm not
the
gonna
zoning
spend-
bylaws.
I'm not going to spend the entire night up here discussing this. Well, let's try it another way. A lot of us several of us, we need to start writing more advices, because what it came down to is several of us, or a couple of us at the end, writing advice on these articles because it wasn't turned in or something was wrong. So, no, wait, so let me finish. So, if people don't like the advice, then I would suggest at Springtown meeting that you step up and write some advice, because it's very difficult to write this, get it to Kelly and get it turned in. But I don't disagree with you that maybe we can expand on it or expound on it if you would like. But as far as the description, it is a housekeeping article, and I'm just not going to go any further at this point. Go ahead, Mrs. Donahue.
Housekeeping
It doesn't
amend.
say, it doesn't say amend.
Oh,
I'm
wait
just
a minute,
gonna
wait a minute.
I'm
It
gonna
does
take
too
one more
say
shot
amend.
here.
Read the Article 24.
right.
To see if the town will vote to
Oh, okay.
amend.
Okay.
How do you housekeep and amend? That's all I want to know. Tell me how we do it.
Okay, so let me
Because we're
help you out.
accepting-
No.
I'm not gonna. Come on, guys.
All right,
This is
all
silly.
right, all right,
In
so-
order to change
It's a
something, you
table.
can amend it.
Okay.
That's housekeeping.
All right.
If you're fixing something, you're amending.
Make a motion to adjourn.
I did. Okay, fine.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? 8-0-0.
Somebody's gotta do it, Dawn.